organizational meeting. I'd like to start off with roll call.
Bruner,
Here.
Barnum,
Here.
Elster,
Here.
Jennis,
Here.
Patrick,
Here.
Boyd,
Present.
Zuber.
Present. Okay. I'd like to open up the floor for nominations of chairman of the board to serve a 2-year term, 2012 to 2014.
I'd like to nominate Chris Patrick for chairman of the board.
Are there any other nominations? I'd entertain a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Carl? Okay, motion was made by Alan, second by Carl to close the nominations. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, nominations are closed. And we have now need a motion, entertain a motion to elect Chris Patrick as chairman of the board, Edgar County Board for term 2012 to 2014. And Mike Helsa, you made that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Then a first and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chris Patrick is the chairman of the board. Chris, if you'd like to come assume your seat. Alicia, welcome.
I want to thank everybody and appreciate your confidence in me. Next item on the agenda is the election of vice chairman of the board serving for a 2-year term of 2012 to 2014.
I'd like to nominate Ben Jennis. I'd like to second it.
Been moved by Carl, seconded by Mr. Boyd. Ben Jennis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Ben Jennis will be the vice chair for 2012-2014. I would entertain a motion to adopt Robert's Rules of Orders as of the order of business and rules for the term 2012 to 2014.
Got motion?
Motion by Ben Jennis. Is there a second? Second by Dan Bruner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I think you all have the meeting dates for next year.
I'd move that we table that till next meeting, so everybody can look them over and see.
That's fine. Motion by Ben, second by Jeff to just table it until the next meeting, which is fine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest that we direct the clerk to put that on the study session agenda so that we can discuss that at the next study session and then make sure that it's on the agenda for next Wednesday?
Okay, good. Next item on the agenda, the committee assignments. I have copies of that. That's a tentative assignment list. If you would all check it over and see if there are any conflicts or anything needs to be gone through. Yeah.
Again, I think that we should lay this over until the study session, make sure it's on the agenda, give folks a chance to take a look at it, discuss it, and we can discuss it further at the study session and put it on the agenda for the final disposition next Wednesday.
Good.
If that's agreeable to everybody.
I don't know when we're
Motion?
That would be a motion to address that way. Okay, next item on the agenda is the public open session.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
I do have a comment to make prior to the public session. And I'm sure most of the new members even know this. Over the last several years, we have been involved in quite a few lawsuits We have taken it in the chin on some of them, meaning the taxpayers have. Our law policy has increased by about $26,000 or $32,000 this past year for this coming fiscal year. We have a lot of issues still not resolved in court. Keeping that in mind, I'd kind of like to request that the board ask the state's attorney to make sure that it reviews all aspects of the situation regarding the airport, that we're involved in something in a way that we should be, that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, that the jurisdictional questions are being answered, and that we not go into it just headlong. Further, I'd like to ask that maybe, and this is a pray rather than ask, is that we kind of step back and look at the situation out of the airport and see if we can't work something out to the best help for the airport, for the people involved, and for the citizens of our county. Okay, that's what I'd like to ask. That's all I need to say.
Any other comments? Now we'll open the floor to the open meeting. I will say that when you come up and address the board, give your name, your address, and I think it's county policy for 5 minutes. So it's open to public comment.
My name is Jude Redwood. My address is P.O. Box 864, St. Joseph, Illinois. I'm an attorney who's been retained by Rusty Bogue and RSB Aviation Inc. to represent their interests in regards to the airport issues. And I was very heartened to hear the comments of Mr. Bogue this morning regarding the airport, asking or praying that the board step back and take a look at the situation and consult with Mr. Isuf for negotiations is exactly what RSB Aviation Incorporated is hoping that the board would do. We're asking that the board not take any action on the purported eviction letter that was authored by Jimmy Wells and presented to Mr. Bogue until there's been a study session. What we would propose to do is prepare a factual booklet that each of the board members will receive, Mr. Isaac will receive, with proposals for negotiations before the issue is brought to the table. I do wish to tell the board today that RSB Aviation Incorporated is a corporation based in Edgar County, which has a gross annual income of approximately $1 million and annual payroll for its employees of $250,000. RSB Aviation Inc. has been the major lessee at the Edgar County Airport since January 2008. RSB Aviation Inc. provides the following services: flight training, pilot services, aircraft management, maintenance with full-time certified aircraft mechanics, aircraft rental to pilots who are not owners, and crop dusting, among other things. RSB Aviation Inc. is the only corporation offering flight training at the Edgar County Airport. RSB Aviation Inc. employs certified flight instructors and has trained over 50 new pilots since 2008. RSB Aviation Inc. is responsible for bringing in at least 6 current lessees to the Edgar County Airport because RSB maintains the planes for these pilots, who now call the Edgar County Airport their home base. Based on Edgar County Airport's October 2012 budgetary status report, RSB Aviation Inc. currently accounts for more than 50% of the airport income generated from fuel sales and close to 40% of the airport income generated by leasing out hangars and other space at the Edgar County Airport. I want to remind the board that RSB Aviation Inc. has devoted time, energy, and money to expanding the income generated by the Edgar County Airport, and to state clearly that RSB Aviation Inc. at this point is aligned itself with the goals of Edgar County by trying and succeeding in relieving a substantial tax burden previously imposed by the airport, and instead creating jobs and revenue in the county. RSB Aviation has 12 aircraft based at the airport and has attracted the 6 additional hangar lessees already mentioned. Like other county airports, the Edgar County Airport is eligible for federal grant money for various airport projects. The FAA administration's Airport Improvement Program has granted money to Edgar County Airport, most recently to assist in a runway expansion. These grants depend, among other factors, on the amount of usage the airport generates. Since 2008, RSB Aviation Inc. has doubled the based aircraft at the Edgar County Airport. The number of based aircraft is one of the factors in the equation that the FAA uses to allocate these grants to county airports. Federal monies come with strings attached. In other words, county airports incur obligations when they accept federal grant money. 2 of the major obligations imposed on every airport accepting federal funds include ensuring availability of fair and reasonable terms without unjust discrimination and compliance with civil rights requirements. If an airport, finds through its management, is unfair, unreasonable, discriminatory, or violative of civil rights requirements, the FAA can and will suspend or terminate the federal grant money, and there are procedures for the FAA to order repayment of grant monies already spent by the local airport found to be non-compliant in its obligations. RSB is convinced that the actions of Jimmy Wells, taken personally and outside the scope of his contractual duties, are discriminatory, unfair, and unreasonable, and clearly violate the statutory and First Amendment rights of the Bogue family. Although he now denies making these statements, there are several witnesses who will testify under oath that they heard Jimmy Wells state that one reason that RSB Aviation Inc. was being terminated as a lessee of the airport is because Mrs. Bogue breastfed Mary Jo Bogue at the airport. Allowing a county airport to be managed using personal prejudices and personal animosities of low-level employees is not and cannot be the ultimate goal of the Edgar County Board. RSB Aviation will not vacate the premises voluntarily. Mr. and Mrs. Bogue are willing to present a plan to the Edgar County Board to resolve the problems which have been caused by this purported eviction letter. RSB Aviation Inc. wishes to resolve these issues, working with the county board, and hopes that the board will recognize RSB Aviation Incorporated as the latest in a long tradition of flying families in Edgar County, a boon to the economic growth of Edgar County, and a serious and professional corporation committed to the economic expansion of the Edgar County Airport. We're asking no action be taken on the purported letter of eviction authored by Jimmy Wells at this time. RSB Aviation Inc. will present a proposal for negotiations of a new lease by February 15, 2013, and we request the Edgar County Board respectfully please place this issue on discussion on the County Board's agenda in March 2013. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Are you retained by RSP Aviation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Cynthia Jane Brown. My address is 814 East Blackburn Street, Paris, Illinois. I am a teacher, a school work coordinator, and a volunteer member of the Edgar County Brain Power Group. Our group consists of local business leaders, U of I Extension Cooperative staff, school administrators, and others interested in the job development in Edgar County. Today I stand before you in support of Rusty Bogue and RSB Aviation. I, along with many, know Rusty extremely well. It is apparent he has made a very positive impact on many in our community and throughout the country. I'd like to share excerpts from a few of the over 75 statements of support on his behalf that I was able to read yesterday. Jeff Jenkins, who is a concerned aviation professional and corporate pilot, has known Rusty professionally for 13 years. He stated, "He is without a doubt the hardest working, most dedicated, and ambitious person I've met, not just in aviation, but overall. He is an absolute asset to any community. The direct impact to the community of his presence is immeasurable. His maintenance facility alone opens the door to the dollars that come with transit corporate aircraft being able to operate at PRG. Without him, you're missing out on revenue from jet fuel sales, rental cars, hotel stays, catering, dining, all of the things that give the option for large companies to do business in the Paris area. There is no justification for what is happening. Open your eyes and be grateful such a person has chosen to live in your community, are the words of Jeff Jenkins. Nick Evernine stated Rusty Bogue is an immensely talented pilot, mechanic, instructor, and mentor. He further stated, I've never met anyone as passionate about aviation as Rusty Bogue. Another quote, I could feel the passion this young man has for aviation. It would be a true shame to let this man's talent and passion for aviation leave this community. These are the words of Bill Shadlitz, who brought his son to the Edgar County Airport for a first flight. Sean Bennett's words included, RSB Aviation is my choice for all maintenance and aviation expertise. I literally have trusted Rusty with my life. Mr. Bennett has purchased planes from RSB. I, too, know firsthand about Rusty's flying expertise. I flew recently with him to Cleveland in a family emergency situation. I admit my prior apprehensiveness about a small aircraft flight. I've never flown in a small airplane before. I was quickly overcome with that by a very confident pilot who gave me one of the best experiences of my life. If you've never flown with Rusty, you should. My aunt, who's 70 years old, accompanied us on this flight, and she can't wait to go again either. I've also used RSB Aviation for crop dusting on my farms. With such support from many of the services being provided by RSB, I, along with many others, question the motives behind evicting a successful business. Dale Pewfall stated, it appears the local government has another agenda, and this usually means someone in local government is going to get a payoff if this happens. I hope this isn't true. Again, along with many other questions, the motives of Mr. Jimmy Wells. His inappropriate remarks about breastfeeding were offensive. I am proud to say that I was a nursing mother many years ago, and the American Pediatrics Association and the ACLU would support Ann Bogue's decision to nurse her daughter, as do I. Mr. Wells lacks knowledge of basic civil rights and has put the county legally at risk through his thoughtless actions and remarks. I, along with many county taxpayers, question what is really happening here and why a fine young man who works 7 days a week, 12 plus hours a day is being evicted from a successful business entrepreneurship that has brought both jobs and positive economics to our community in struggling times. Rusty Bogue deserves the community support and that of the officials elected to represent this county. I challenge the new county board to do what is right. Personal agendas have no place in county government. Please work with Rusty Bogue to resolve your differences and help Edgar County Airport grow. The facts are that Rusty Bogue has built a reputable business and made possible many improvements at the airport. 28 airplanes reside at the airport today as opposed to the 9 that were there pre-RSV aviation days. A grant for a crosswind runway was made possible due to the increased traffic at the airport through Rusty's business. Rusty has brought 8 jobs to the community, which will leave Edgar County if this business is not supported by this community. Please do what is right for Edgar County.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Robert Bogue, and I live at 7826 North 1200 Street, Paris, Illinois. On November 13th, at the Edgar County Advisory Airport Board meeting, County employee Jamie Wells reported there were 2 complaints regarding breastfeeding of an infant at the airport. One complainant was provided the unlimited use of a county vehicle during his breaks and lunch hour to rectify the problem. The second complainant remains unnamed. Mr. Wells went on to say he felt the breastfeeding at the airport wasn't professional, this wasn't a nursery, and he would not allow it. The airport board supported Jimmy's anti-breastfeeding statements and intentions by leaving this matter entirely to him. I know this to be a fact because I was at that meeting. The next day, when the contractor's wife, who is not an employee of the airport or the county, arrived with her child to begin work at her husband's business, Jimmy Wells demanded she leave with the baby and not to bring her back. This doesn't sound like a very friendly place, does it? Do you suppose nursing mothers and their babies are banned from public areas and other airports in Illinois? Airports such as O'Hare, Champaign-Willard, or even at the Mattoon-Charleston Airport? Absolutely not, because they know it's a right protected by Illinois law. Illinois law protects the right of a woman to nurse in public. Banning babies and arguing with mothers in order to prevent nursing here in Edgar County is a little far-fetched, even for Edgar County. As you already know, I attended the last Edgar County Board meeting and aired these grievances. 2 days later, and in retaliation for the now public interest in his misdeeds, Mr. Wells terminated my son's lease agreement. At the moment, my granddaughter remains banned from the Edgar County Airport, and it also seems this applies to all nursing mothers with children. If you're nursing a child, I suggest you call ahead to be sure the county airport is a place you're allowed to visit, or at least to learn if the breastfeeding cop is on duty. He's not there that often and doesn't keep regular hours. My position on this matter is simple and straightforward. This is a county airport, not a private airport, and most certainly not the property of Mr. Wells or Mr. Patrick. It belongs equally to all taxpayers and residents of the county. I've asked for Jimmy's dismissal for the reasons noted above and for the simple fact that our county employees need to operate within the law. But I also asked for an investigation into airport operations. This time I'll elaborate. How can it be that breastfeeding is banned in the public access areas of a public facility? How can it be that a county employee can ban a defenseless 17-month-old baby from access to public airport facilities? Is this not an infringement of the most basic of civil rights? How can a county employee prevent access to an airport leased property by the leaser, his family and employees? How can a county employee prevent a pilot in training access to the airport? How can it be that a manager has no posted hours and comes and goes without question? Is he not an employee of the county, and if so, what exactly are his hours? How can it be that a county employee and an advisory board chairperson can hire a secretary when there's so little work to be done? After all, there's only 17 hangar invoices to process each month, and an occasional gas ticket. Does it really take 80 hours to do all that work in addition to all the work performed by the airport manager? What work? Add this to the question, why are the leases all dated 2008? So why aren't the lease contracts up to date showing the proper amounts paid to the airport board? It seems to me there's plenty of time for this work to have been done by either party. Why are some of these amounts of the contract showing as little as 1/3 of the dollars collected? Where's the additional money going, and what are we paying for? Why are there 2 county employees allowed to be selling their products in the airport without complying with FAA standards for vendors? Is this another fringe benefit for county employees, or does the FAA need to know this also? There is an issue about insurance, and the insurance thing. What exactly are the county policies on required insurance coverage? There's already a state law requiring insurance, which we comply with, just like automobiles. So what exactly are these coverages required to be? Where in the county government and the airport operation manual is it stated what these amounts should be? Is there even an airport operations manual? Why is Mr. Wells seeking to hire RSV employees? Is he asking on behalf of the county, and if so, shouldn't these job openings be made available to the public, or is there another investor interested in aviation now residing in the county? Do you suppose this could even be a hostile takeover of a successful business? There is more. How can it be that an airport advisory board chairman can have influence over a county employee on matters such as wages, advancement, fringe benefits, and hours of operation where he while he lives with her? How can you do that? How long has he been involved with this employee? Doesn't it seem like a conflict of interest to anybody? Is there even a chance the county will soon face a claim of sexual harassment should Mr. Patrick fail to satisfy his mistress, or should he drop her from his stable? The shoddy operation and mismanagement of the Edgar County Airport needs to be looked into. Mr. Wells needs fired for the laws and rights he's either broken or infringed upon. Mr. Patrick, that would be you, Chris, should have resigned from the airport board a long, long time ago. He clearly has a conflict of interest and is not functioning in the county's best interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a copy of this for the clerk to enter into this.
Anybody else?
Joe Shiner, 10872 North 1545th Street, Paris, Illinois. Let's go to this guy.
It's not his fault.
Just to say a few things on the airport here. When I moved to Paris in 1996, I was a student pilot, And I went out to the airport to see what was out there. There was a sign out here at, I think 1550 Road, said flying lessons and such. Went out there multiple times, could not find a soul. It was deserted. I gave up because I had a new job here in town. I didn't want to drive to Mattoon or Terre Haute to learn to fly. About 2006 or so, I started flying remote control airplanes. After I lost a few in the cornfield behind the house, I thought, where can I go fly this and not be interrupted? The airport seemed like a good place. While I was out there, I ran into a guy named Rusty Bogue. And I don't know if you remember that day, Rusty, but Rusty started telling me about all the positive things he was going to try to build and create here in Edgar County. And I thought when I went home that this guy's crazy and this probably would never happen here in a small community. But about 2010, a friend of mine was training for a sport pilot's license. Brought me out, we went for a ride. I was hooked, and in the spring of 2011, achieved my pilot's license. And I was able to reach a dream that I had started 20 years before. Recently, in the spring, I'm involved with the Edgar County Shrine Club, and we sell license plates. Well, being quite busy, but the best way I can get the license plates here to the county quickly is to take the plane over and fly and get the plates, get back. If I'd had to drive, I would have wasted a whole day. But with the ability to pick up a plane right locally, I was able to get there and back and only use half a day's time. Could I have driven? Yeah, but I lost all that time. Just last week, a company I worked for, we were able to see 4 vendors in 3 cities with the use of local airports. There's no airports, large airports near these locations, and with this we were able to continue the flow of millions of dollars worth of business into these communities by using these small local airports. Now when I visit the airport, there's always someone around. Just last week I got back early, thought what can I do for a little bit of time, went out to the airport, was able to talk to some of the guys around there, just spend some time. There's always activity out there now. There used to not be. When I travel around, one of the things I do when I fly around is usually just go to local restaurants around the area here in the Midwest. And when you talk to people, you say you're from Edgar County, they usually comment about all the positive activities there. I'm not sure about all the details in this whole situation, but if it is based on strictly a child being at the airport or being involved there, then I think we need to look at the management of how we're managing this, because some personal issues are not getting in the way of the progress here in Edgar County. I'm sure that it'd be nice to go out and fly my remote control planes there again, but I would just soon not. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll have.
I thought nobody was going to represent the pilots in Edgar County, but this gentleman did. I'm probably one of the oldest pilots in Edgar County by far. I don't mean old in age, I mean hours that I've flown. Glenn Hutchins was some older than me, and he's still flying, but I soloed when I was 15 because it was against the law to solo before that. Then I got my last license the day I was 16, which is, that's by law too, and I've flown ever since. I had 300 hours when I soloed, which is a little bit unusual, but he just told me to go out and fly, and he signed my ticket the same way when I got my private. But anyway, I've been a pilot at Edgar County. I've loved the county. I've loved the airports. I've landed and taken off every airport that's built in Edgar County many times. I had Globe Sweats. I don't know if you know what that is or not, but I had it for 20 years. I landed in every state of the union except Maine, Hawaii, and Alaska. Maine was weather. I was up there and was going to do it. Almost tried to carry it up there because I wanted to do it. That's a long ways to go. I had maps made out to go to, back then we used sectionals. I took a lot of sectionals to make maps to go to Alaska. And I also did something that was going to do something. I had all the stuff to cover the numbers. Now, a lot of you make screens and this and shoot me, but cover the numbers on my Swifts and go down flying to the Arch at St. Louis. get that done. I'm glad I didn't, probably. They'll shoot you now. Anyway, I was a Korean War veteran. I fought in 1952, and I want to emphasize the word fought because I did that. That upset me tremendously. I've lived in the United States of America, which I dearly love, for 82 years, and that there's been a lot of things recently, I'd say, in the last 4 years in particular, and probably the next 4, that's upset me terribly. And different things happened, you know, it's really made me sad. But nothing has made me sad as these events at the Edgar County Airport. I can't believe some of the people I thought so highly of for years has brought this about. I hope Rusty gets to stay out there, and I firmly believe he will, but even the fact that it's happened has hurt this community horribly, I feel. I hope I feel wrong, but I just wanted to say that. And I got to sit down because I can't stand up there.
I'm probably the only guy in here. I don't know what your name is.
Al Schneider.
Al Schneider.
That's CHNEID. I didn't get my address. It's 5704 Coach Road, Kansas, Illinois. I live 1,320 feet west of the stop sign in Grandview.
I know where downtown Grandview is.
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 different airstrips right that way. They were always more active than the airport was before Rusty got out there. My field, still got a field in my house. I do the remote control business way more than I do anything else right now. I've got a field there that really beats the airport before Rusty got there. I have 15 guys, airplanes flying all over the trees and into the roof of the trees. We got one up in the tree now.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Laura Lowe, and I'm mom. This is my oldest son, and I have to tell each and every one of you in here, I couldn't be more proud of my son and his wife and my little granddaughter. And I know Rusty is very, very proud of his little girl and his wife. Not many men would want to take their little girl to work with them. That wasn't done in the days when I grew up. People didn't do that. I applaud my son. He thinks so much of his little girl, knowing that he's going to be gone 12 or 14 hours a day, that he wants her close to him somewhere where he can at least connect periodically during the day to visit with her and be a part of her life. Rusty went to school at Indiana State University. He followed a dream that he had had since he was 3 years old. When we lived in State Line, Indiana, we lived 6 miles from the airport, and I took Rusty there routinely to follow the airplanes. That's what he loved. It was his passion from the time he was little. When he was in 5th grade, we were a little short on money and cash. We'd moved to the area and we were still struggling. And we went to a garage sale in Oakland, Illinois, and Rusty found a man that had a ton of remote controlled airstuff available. He wanted $300 for it. Rusty took his own money that he'd saved. We went back to the guy and we bought a trunk load of stuff. When we got home with it, we said, now what do we do with it? We don't know anything about flying airplanes. So we started asking questions in the community, and we found Al Schneider. And Rusty spent his weekends and his evenings after school 4 years at Albert's house learning to fly remote controlled airplanes, because that was his passion. Albert was a grandpa to my son because my dad didn't serve as a grandfatherly figure very often. Thank you, Albert, for being there. When Rusty graduated from high school, he had some pretty good mentors in high school, some good direction, and he was encouraged to go to Indiana State, where he got his degree in aviation. He flew for Brown Flight School for a few years, and then decided it was time for him to become independent. And he wanted to return to Paris, his hometown, so that he could build a business here and be part of this community. Not everyone gets to return to Paris. We lose so many young people as they graduate from Paris High School. It's very disheartening to see the talent that leaves here. I have 4 boys. Rusty's the one in aviation. They all have a hard-working work ethic. They all try very, very hard. I cannot imagine why I'm here today trying to uphold what he has done that has been so good. I'm very disheartened by that. 3 weeks ago, I only knew what the watchdog's name was. And I'd only heard rumbles. And people would say, oh, don't read that stuff, stay away from that. And I didn't. And I didn't because I teach in a public school here, funded with the regional superintendent, where I work with troubled kids. And I've done that for almost 22 years. Worked with alternative students who absolutely need help and direction and guidance. Students that are living in poverty in this community, and the poverty continues to grow here. I've seen it, and each of you must recognize that. In the last 22 years, our community has diminished. We have much to do here to fix things. I appeal to each and every one of you. When you have a young man with talent such as Rusty's, you better hang on to it. You better take it and run with it and make things better for everyone else, because I go to work each day and tell myself, I'm going to be good to my students. I know they need help. 85% of the students I work with receive free lunches. Not just reduced, but free lunches. That's a pretty sad statistic right here in Paris, Illinois. We cannot afford to treat people this way. My son wasn't raised like this, and I can't imagine what it is that's behind this that would allow anyone to behave in this fashion. Rusty went to Jimmy Wells and asked for more space at the airport. He would love to have more space so that he can continue to have his business and his family. And there are other FBOs across the United States that are doing just that. Maybe not in Paris yet, but that's not to say we can't step a little outside of the box and change the way we're doing business here. We're going to have change. If we don't, we're going to continue down the same path. We need change. We need growth. And it starts right here in Paris. They talk about the corruption in the state of Illinois. They talk about corruption in Washington, D.C. You folks are responsible. Each one of you, the 7 of you, are leaders in our community that need to step up to the plate and help guide this community in a direction that encourages growth and doesn't run away young people from coming here and trying to do the right thing. Whatever it is, I appeal to each of you to sit down, educate yourselves, go out to the airport, see what it is. You won't know it, you won't understand it until you see those people in action. Rusty has a great team of people working for him. Elliot over here is one of his pilots and does just about anything. You couldn't ask for a better young man. Melanie is a pilot, his wife. She worked for Rusty until she decided to take a full-time job at Indiana State where she's a professor. There's a lot of talent at Edgar County Airport. A lot of talent. And it's time that we wake up and realize what's there. Because if you're in the dark and you don't know what's being done, you need to see it in action. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mine will be fairly quick. I'm John Kraft, and welcome to the Edgar County Board, all of you. Well, maybe not all of you. Sorry. Just kidding. I want to urge all of you to read the county statutes at your earliest convenience. I want to urge you to read the Open Meetings Act, and I want to urge you to read the Freedom of Information Act. And by the time you read the Open Meetings Act, you'll already have a complaint from the November 7 meeting. I believe 4 people filed a complaint with the Attorney General. That was an illegal meeting because the agenda wasn't posted 48 hours in advance. So all the action taken at that meeting, you probably never have to take it again. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kirk Allen, in regards to the urging of Mr. Kraft to read the statutes, I would urge you as well. Specifically, however, the Open Meetings Act and the Freedom of Information, every one of you elected officials is required by law to comply with that training now. And I hope that when you take that training, you'll realize that when you put mandates in front of the public, such as requiring their name and address is not required, it is private information, we are not required to provide that. Therefore, I will not provide that. One that I wished I would have read before is one of the very first sections of the county statute. I didn't realize it was something as simple in there, but it requires that each regular and special meeting, is this a regular or special meeting?
It's an organizational meeting. I don't know if it's
Be a special meeting.
probably would be a special.
It wasn't on the regular annual calendar?
That's correct. It'd
Okay.
probably be
At
special.
each regular and special meeting, which is open to the public, members of the public and employees of the county shall be afforded time, subject to reasonable constraints, to comment to or ask questions of the board. The Freedom of Information, or the Open Meetings Act, outlines that we have a right to speak. And one of the things we always heard from the past board was, we have a right to speak, but we're not required to answer. Well, with the spirit of the law and the intent of the law of the Open Meetings Act was to inform the public. We have a right to know. It specifically says that. With the county statute, it says we can actually ask questions of the board. Now, it would make no sense to ask questions if you're not going to provide answers. So I would encourage that this new board set a new standard and get answers to the questions that the public asks, because we do have a right to know. With that regard, I understand on your agenda you have a list of committees. I would also urge you read your county statutes as to what is authorized in relation to committees. There's a delegation of authority to determine claims committee. There's an audit committee. There's a garbage disposal and recycling committee, but since the county's not in that business, that one wouldn't apply. Air contamination committee for contract negotiations. See, committees typically deal with specific problems to address certain concerns. Multiple county municipal cooperation committees. We don't have anything like that here. That could be something that's created if we're looking at future growth. Amendments to setback regulations. That's also a temporary committee. Sewage refuse committee. We're not in that business, so we don't have that committee. Establishment of a county health department. Vote canvass committee. It's a specific title to the committee. My point with these, it spells out all the committees in your statute that you're allowed to do. If the law is silent, you're not allowed to do it. And there's a standard for that. It's unquestionable. The state's attorneys confirm that if the law is silent on it, you don't have that right. We create a lot of committees, and I've asked why. And I don't know how many are on your agenda. Do you know offhand, anybody, how many committees are on the agenda that's going to be discussed at your next meeting? A dozen?
A dozen or so, probably 15.
I don't know if it's true, and I can't verify it.
17.
17? Okay.
On this.
I don't know if that's true, but the point is, we've been told, and that's one thing that we can't stop with the watchdogs. People tell us all kinds of stuff, and then we have to verify it. There was that many committees because you get paid for those committees. Do we really need all those committees? And number one, are they authorized? I would urge that before any action on anything that this new board takes, does the law allow you to do it? If it doesn't allow it, don't do it. That would put the watchdogs out of business. That's my biggest goal. We don't need to continue to bring to the public things that our elected officials are doing that they're not supposed to do. Part of their job is oversight. It's been brought to our attention that Mr. Wells has a contract. I've read that contract. In that contract, it says nothing about free hangar space for his private airplane. He has another hangar he rents with an airplane. Are you aware that he has his own private airplane in the main hangar?
Yes. Are
Yes.
you aware that the county is storing stuff in his hangar?
Well, it's not in the contract is the point.
Are you aware that he is storing county stuff?
Is that his hangar he gets a $25 a month discount on?
Excuse me, I have the floor. My point is, we have a contract with an individual that's authorizing certain things. When you go outside the scope of the intent of the contract, when you do favors of, we're going to store stuff here for him, or we're going, now you get into the good old boy system that gets us to where we're at today. We need to have right is right, wrong is wrong. It's that simple. The justification, no matter what it is, if that's the justification, document it, record it, and do it within the scope of the law. Because otherwise it becomes a favoritism issue that other people could very easily say, well, you're giving him free space, but not me. It's not right. It could be classified as official misconduct. I still have time. In regards to this particular meeting, and I hate to be the burden of bad news, this is a special meeting. Special meeting requirements. Under the county code, requires 3 board members to sign and request to have a special meeting. Has there been a signature of 3 board members requesting this meeting take place? No, there has not. The other requirement, it shall be published in a newspaper printed in the county. Has that taken place? No, it has not. Gentlemen, your first act as a new public body, after being duly sworn in to uphold the Constitution of this state, was to have a meeting that was completely illegal. I hope that doesn't continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Rusty Bogue, and I guess I'm not going to provide my address. I'll give you a brief synopsis, I guess, of where I came from. I came from Paris, Illinois, in Edgar County, raised here all my life. And had to leave for about 10 years to achieve my goals. And as the industry changed and as my interests changed, I didn't really want to be away from family and friends, people that were near and dear to me. Flying all over the country and staying in the hotels 20 nights out of the month, I wanted to be able to come home. And Edgar County is to my brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, in-laws, nieces, nephews. I've made great sacrifice to be here, and maybe that wasn't even the right decision to begin with. But for 5 years, anything that I've done has helped benefit the county. And it's a win-win situation. I came into an airport that was void of activity, that had tractors parked inside of hangars, had horse trailers, had campers, and there were some airplanes that were not airworthy or active. And very few that were even actually able to start and run and go out the door. But far from enough to base a business. And I depended on my quality and reputation and hard work ethic to reposition airplanes here to do maintenance on. And for years, tried to build an aviation community in hopes that the activity would snowball. That the more people who we taught to fly would tell more of their friends, and it became more acceptable and grow. And that's what we've done. And we've grown to the bursting limit of what the facility can handle at this point. And many things are near and dear and sacred to me. And I can point out other peers of mine that have their family in their work environment on a regular basis. And insurance companies that don't have a problem with that. Other FBOs that when they walk in the front door, they're walking into the FBO, the fixed base operator, who sells fuel, who sells maps, who sells charts, who sells pilot supplies, headsets, and supports aircraft in every endeavor. Instruments, maintenance, oil changes. They don't walk into a building that's ran and owned and operated by the public, like doing the fuel concession and what we have there today, unless there's no other option. And years ago, if Edgar County wanted to have an open door there, the only way they could do it was to put more people on the county payroll and open those doors. It would be unusual for them to be in competition with private industry. But to maintain the status quo and get along with everyone, I've minded my own business, let them do their thing. But as we get to this point today, I've got people over my shoulder with their own agenda, their own motivations, and trying to do something that not only sacrifices me, but you see all the people in this room because everyone sees here that they've got something to lose. My activity isn't just good for me. Everything I've ever done and the way I've gone about it has benefited the whole community. And that's fine, that's great. I'm happy to pay more hangar rent. I'm happy to buy fuel off of them and they get a flowage fee per gallon. That's a real reasonable relationship. I've never asked for anything special. I never came looking for a grant or a TIF or anything. I just wanted my own fair chance to run my business and do my thing. And instead, I've got people that want to meddle in the space I lease, that tell me who to hire, when they can show up, what their activities can be. And it is in clear violation of laws and contracts and what their duties are. And we bring this to the county board in an effort not to sue the community I live within. I've got multiple offers from several different people that would just like to sue the shit out of everybody. And at a much more expensive alternative, I've hired counsel and advice to point out where have they broken the laws, what can we do to fix it, what can we all do to get along. And the option that I bring to you is one, to sit down, work with me, let's try and fix a bunch of the problems that you've got up there, and let me continue to take the ball and run with it. I'll grow the airport and I'll grow it for the benefit of the whole community. I don't want lawsuits, I don't think that's good, and again, I want to be here for the next 50 years. And I'd like to be going to the airport for the next 50 years. And I want to be just as proud of it in 50 years as I am today. So we've got to come to some kind of resolution that lets things be fair for everyone. There are no lawsuits filed. There's been accusations thrown around that, well, the only reason we're going to kick him out is because he went and got attorneys involved. Well, I tell you, that's a pretty poor stance to take, because I'm an aviation professional. If you want to know something about an airplane, I don't care if it's operation, design, philosophy of design. It doesn't matter if you want to fly upside down underneath of the arch or loop around the arch. I can give you all the related variables and who to get the special permit issued from. And there are many more things that we can be doing here, and it takes an exhaustive effort on my part to do what we've done today, and we catch some momentum every day that goes by. We get a bigger reputation. There's more people from Covington, Indiana, from Danville, Illinois, that are bringing airplanes here that drive activity. The more our takeoff and landing count goes up, the more based aircraft we get, the more funding we're eligible with. Those are only factors, but there's a long equation as to what we do in order to attract the federal fuel tax money that helped build that runway. And everything I do, takeoff and landing, attracting customers, them buying fuel, and if we had more hangars, more based airplanes here, we'll grow it not only for my benefit, but to relieve the tax burden of the airport on the community and further help develop the airport. So, take some time, let everybody step back, let us prepare for you some options as to how the airport could be managed and ran in another way that would save us money on some of the items we spend and allow us to reseal the asphalt at the airport, would allow us to paint the building at the airport and put on a better image. When you do come to the airport, you'll see a lot. When you do come and visit the airport, you'll see a lot of activity, but you'll see it in an antiquated, dated setting, and a building that's poorly maintained, doesn't present a good image to everyone, and 1970s wood paneling around. There are some options that we have in order to improve that, and some ways not to spend just more money, but ways to let the money be put to better use. And part of that needs to be incorporated in the decision here as to how to resolve things peacefully. We need something that allows me more than 30 days at a time to lease a space. On goodwill and good intention and working with everybody, I've been there for 5 years and never had a problem. And 3 weeks ago, November 13th, on my birthday, I sat down at an airport board meeting and tried to tell them how important it was that my daughter come to my place of business in the space that I lease. The board, I believe, voted to turn it over to Jimmy with the impression that he was going to work on a resolution. I believe that the tone of the meeting and the way people in that board meeting asked questions, that all but 2 people there understood that the motion they made was with the intention to let Jim Wells try and find a space. One of the topics discussed was a storage area that's poorly utilized. One of the board members made a motion to get up and go look at it, and then the board chairman said, no, we don't have time for that. But I think behind the scenes, there were more things on the table than that. Wednesday that followed that meeting, Jimmy Wells said, what's your move? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm supposed to work with you on more space. He said, the board put it all in my position. I've already told you how I feel, now get her out of here. That's not working together with anybody. And Carl, you were there. As I think back and recap that meeting, I don't think the board wanted Jimmy to handle it to run me off. But I do know that there's a foundation there for that. And for 6 months, I've had trouble getting along with him, and it's an agenda as a bigger picture to run me off. And you guys are the ones who actually had the authority to write a lease agreement between me.
That's right.
As we have sought legal counsel and tried to find out what is the law, what are the rules, and what do we do about it, there's a lot of things that are not right. And in order to make things right, to make them fair for all of us, and for us to continue to contribute to the community, I think you guys need to look at the bigger picture here and say, we're willing to resolve all these issues, and we don't need to sue anybody, and we don't need to run Rusty off. That's not going to be good for everybody. So I would encourage you to try and find time in your schedule for us to show you what needs changed, and I'm willing to be part of a change in a positive direction. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Joe Henderson. I won't give my complete address, but I'm from Camargo, Illinois. I do fly radio control airplanes just like everybody has talked about. It is a fun hobby. It does lead you into further things. About 12 years ago, I was wanting to get my pilot's license, got out of the radio controls, got back into it here recently. One name come up that I was asking around. I said, okay, what's that usually run to get your pilot's license so I can fly the real thing? One name come up, Rusty Boat. So I started doing a little investigation. I got a hold of Rusty. We set up a meeting time, took my first flight with him. My uncle owned an airplane I flew when I was younger. A couple times, it wasn't nothing big. I met Rusty. We went up for my first flight, hooked. Also, he's a man of very good work ethic. He taught me, I took my check ride with the FAA in 20 hours, the minimum that it takes to be able to get your sport license. So, I'm not a taxpayer in your community, but he has brought me to your community to spend money. I rent a plane myself. I've taken many a time, people up for flights and stuff. I've probably got 70 hours since July 17th when I got my license this year. I'd hate to see it go. That's all I've got for you.
Thank you.
I came up here today to show support for boats. But listening to Mrs. Bogue made me think. I have a family at my business with my grandkids. It's the most important thing there is. You need to be thinking about this, boys. You need to be thinking about it. Our Edgar County around here is not what it used to be 25 years ago. We need to be thinking about these kids. They're good kids. Amen. They're an awesome family. And they got hard work ethics. That's something you can't show anybody anymore. They're proving it. Guys, you need to look at this. I'm telling you, you need to look at this. There's a bigger picture.
Anybody else?
I'll take a shot at it.
Name's Doug Sutton, 415 West Madison Street, right here in Paris. Many of you know me as the owner and operator of Twin Lakes Oil Ring. Well, about 35 years ago, I started taking pilot training. Started a family, couldn't afford it. Let it go. Well, not too many months ago, a couple of years ago, wife saw an ad in our local paper. $49, I believe it was, introductory slot. She bought me these for a Christmas present. Went out, talked to Rusty, known Rusty for years, skated at our place as a child, and he's recently been back. Well, it's because of that ad that I am now a pilot. Got into it mostly so I could take my grandkids up flying. And just to think that Rusty could lose his lease because of something as trivial, mundane, and asinine as breastfeeding in public is unheard of. And because of Rusty and his team, Elliot, Melvin, and a couple others, I am now a pilot. And I think I'm a very good pilot because of Rusty and his team, and much so that I can say I'm a better pilot than Rusty is a roller skater. Anybody else?
My name's Casey Bogan. I'm a little hoarse right now, so you have to bear with me. I, amongst few in here, have had the opportunity to be a part of my brother's life as long as I can remember. I think this is devastating for his business and the community and everybody that's involved. My brother and I own a business in this community, and I look for us to stay here for a long time. And some of the older people in this community are making decisions that affect the younger generation. And I think that, as some others have said, we need to take some time and look back at the situation and agree that it's not resolved yet. As Chris, you told me it was last Monday when I stopped and visited with you. You told me that there would be no discussion on this topic and that it was not up for discussion. And that alone, in my life, I have never been talked to anybody like he did to me. So I would like to let the community and the board members here, please take some time out of your day, go up and visit the airport, see what goes on up there. It brings money into the community. It's good for the future of I am the future. It's good for everybody involved. So they need to come to a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alan.
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you.